To the stage. Archie Gottesman joins us today to share her welcoming vision that Judaism should continuously fill us with joy, warmth, and meaning, and be something we look forward to, from Shabbat to the major holidays to life cycle events. Jubelong, like JCCs, is open and accepting, and focuses on loving being Jewish, however you choose to do that. It was created to help people to make Judaism their own and is filled with easy to follow, fun, touching, and humorous, always non-intimidating content. Please join me in welcoming to the stage our JCC Association board member and co-founder of Jubelong, Archie Gottesman.
Okay, so a priest and a minister and a rabbi. So they're having lunch, right? And they started talking about the challenges of running a house of worship. So surprisingly enough, what they all had in common was they'd all had problems with mice. So the priest said, wow, when we had mice, I caught them in this big trap, and then I drove 100 miles away in this beautiful forest, and I opened the trap, and the mice ran out. And wouldn't you know it, by the time I drove back to the church, the mice were all back. And the minister goes, well, that's nothing, because when we had mice, I also caught them in a big trap, and then I drove them 300 miles away. And there was a beautiful field, and I let the mice out, and by the time I got back to the sanctuary, those mice were there. And the rabbi said, wow, we used to have mice in the synagogue too, but I just brought them all up to the bima, and I bar mitzvahed them, and I haven't seen them since. All right? I love that joke. Okay. Right? Okay, I am so happy to be here with all of you. There are foundations and organizations and massive institutions, and they are all pondering and philosophizing how to keep the Jewish community alive and thriving. And you know, the truth is, sometimes they know what they're talking about, and a lot of times they don't. But you guys do. You are on the front lines. You are the foot soldiers, and you are fighting for the Jewish community. And I am going to stop using war metaphors now, because this shouldn't be a battle, but sometimes it feels like one. And I am going to give you not ammunition, but tools to help to make the work easier. So the tools can be found on jubelong.com. It is a website, basically, and it's filled with easy, relatable Jewish content, including prayers, songs, skits, readings, all free for you to print. So Jubelong is written for everybody, but especially for anyone who is looking to start or renew a Jewish practice. Okay, so like Joe, he's Jewish, and he brings his 4-year-old daughter, Sadie, to gymnastics once a week at your JCC. And Joe is married to Mary Kate, who isn't Jewish, but they are open to starting a Shabbat ritual with Sadie. Or Sarah and Chris. They're the newlyweds who come to Wednesday night yoga and the occasional adult education class. Okay, so Sarah and Chris, we know they're already doing a Passover Seder, and they are aspirational Shabbaters. And aspirational Shabbaters are those folks who want to do Shabbat, but somehow it is just out of their reach. Anyway, Joe, Sadie, Sarah, Chris, Mary Kate, they are your members, and they have the most to gain from being introduced to Jubelong. So here is an overly simplified version of Jews in America. Okay, the blue, they are the most observant Jews. So these are the folks, we know these, everybody knows all of these people, but those are the ones whose Judaism is part of their everyday lives. Their kids probably go to day school, they'll most likely marry somebody else who's Jewish, and they likely give most of their charity to Jewish causes. You get the idea. Those are the blue. So the white is the group of Jews who are connected, but they're just not as observant. So like I'm probably in the white group. So their kids probably go to Hebrew school. They celebrate the big 4 holidays. And when it comes to their charitable giving, they might give some money to Jewish causes. And they might marry Jews, but it's not a deal breaker. Okay, now the red. Do you see how big this group is? That's the DJs, the disengaged Jews. They are the biggest group, and they are doing very little, if any, Jewish yet. Because the thing is, sometimes with Judaism, it's easy to feel like you don't belong, which means you want to stay safely put in that outside red circle. And this happens, you know, it happens for so many reasons, like being raised in a secular home. Maybe you don't believe in God. Maybe you think that the cost for synagogue membership is too high. Maybe you married somebody who's not Jewish, or maybe you simply don't realize that Judaism can be a powerful way to add joy to your life. The JCCs, you guys, this is so key. You are the only Jewish organization that has thousands of disengaged Jews, DJs, streaming in and out of your doors every single day. These DJs, I'm involved in a lot of Jewish organizations, and they are the holy grail for every Jewish outreach organization, and they are in your swimming pools. So that gives you guys the unique, I'm part of it, the unique opportunity, and I would probably go as far as say responsibility, to open the door to joyous Judaism for their benefit and for the future of the Jewish people. Just a little bit of a task we've got going here. The hardest part for a lot of DJs, it's just getting started. It's like this. Okay, so the left side of this of the diagram, it shows Jewish rituals and values. So all of those offer the opportunity for that delicious feeling of heart-opening spirituality, and it can sometimes it makes us cry. It's like the moment when you're lighting Shabbat candles, or maybe you're at a bris, or maybe you're lighting a Yortzeit candle for a grandparent. The right side represents the things that so many of us do to find joy, like watching a really good TV show, or laughing with a friend, or in my personal case, finding the perfect pair of boots. But many of you already know that Jewish ritual can lead to joy, connection, and meaning, okay? That's the part in the middle, okay? That's where the two circles intersect, and that is where Jew Belong lives. And we're not trying to reinvent the wheel, because Judaism already has what it needs, but we are out to rebrand Judaism, especially for the DJs, by making it easy for them to start their own Jewish rituals. So this is our homepage. Okay, so that's just a screenshot. Okay, so you get the joke, right? So that's our homepage. And get it, Kegel, okay. Every once in a while, someone doesn't get that. Okay. But the small print, I'm going to read it out loud to you because it's too small for you guys to read out there. But the paragraph says this: have you ever asked yourself, why be Jewish? Us too. The short answer is that Judaism is a somewhat easy and time-tested, 5,000 plus years, way to add joy, meaning, and connection to your life. But yeah, sometimes Judaism can be more complicated than your last girlfriend. That's where Jew Belong comes in. Think of us as the friendly, kind of funny kid from your geometry class who explained in simple language and without judgment only what you need to know for the test. We have 4 main sections on our nav bar. You can see it up there. It's holidays, milestones, more, and JELP. And then what we have is this handy, you guys have seen this before on other websites, but I kind of love this because you can hover over words you don't understand. So we hovered over the word Juberis for this screenshot, and we've included a definition, and we made up the word, but here's what it means. Juberisment is the feeling you get, which may include sweating, shortness of breath, or mild panic, when you think you should know something Jewish, but you don't. And it also occurs when you've done or said something Jewish wrong. We've all been there. Okay, Jubilong has a definition for any word that someone may not know so that they don't feel Jew-barrassed while they're on the website. And Jubilong, we focus on the big 4 holidays: Passover, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and Hanukkah, plus Shabbat and Thanksgiving. And we have a little part about the minor holidays, so you can find it all on there. Now, the cool thing is each holiday comes with a printable sheet and booklets. So like, all right, so this is for Passover, there's Rosh Hashanah, there's Shabbat, and like, I admit my printer at home, I did send these to Staples because I wanted the paper to be like shiny and pretty to show you, but all I do is press print and these booklets come out. Okay, and so for any of you who are leading a Passover Seder soon, I'm gonna let you in on a secret that shouldn't be such a secret. Leading a kick-ass Passover Seder is only partially about the Haggadah. So like even if you don't use Jubilong's fantastic Haggadah, you will want to follow our 7 steps to a kick-ass Seder. Okay, and those are the 7 steps. Of course, that's on the website. You don't have to print it out. I'm just saying you can print it out, you can read it. They're all important, but the one that I need to keep in mind every time I lead anything Jewish, anything, is number 3, haters gonna hate. I was leading a Seder with my friend Vicky, and I swear to God, before we even opened the Haggadahs, her mother goes like this. She goes, "Let's make this quick, I'm hungry." And Vicky's like this, "I told you." And I was like, "What? What's up? Like, what's your mother?" So anyway, she took the wind right out of our sails. I was so nervous. All of a sudden, I was like, oh no, we have to go fast. We have to go fast. Vicky's mother-in-law is hungry. But then I remembered, haters gonna hate. And I got back to business, and we led a fabulous Seder. And you know what? At the end, even her mother-in-law liked it. Because the truth is, leading Jewish rituals is not easy. You think your kids are the only ones who roll their eyes during Shabbat? Trust me, they're not. But it doesn't mean that they're not taking it in, and it doesn't mean that you should stop trying. We have a lot about death and mourning at Jubilong. And when my dad died, it was a little bit more than a year ago. My family sat Shiva. Now, he was my first relative to die, so I had heard that Jewish guidelines, he wasn't my first relative to die, but this was the first time that I was really involved in a Shiva in a way where it was my dad. So anyway, which is off topic, but anyway, I had heard that the guidelines for Jewish mourning was really fantastic, and it was so smart. But like, wow, when I actually experienced it, I was like, those ancient rabbis, they thought of everything. Like they told us to even leave the door unlocked so that my mom, my sisters, and I wouldn't have to like keep jumping up to get the doorbell like every time somebody got there. And like I hadn't known this, but Jewish wisdom encourages us to talk about the deceased when we go to make a visit rather than some more like mundane distraction. And it's so nice. Like I went to a Shiva call recently, and all I said to my friend Zev, I said, "Zev, I'm so sorry for your loss. Please tell me about your dad because I never had the chance to meet him." And like that was the best thing that I could have said. But I didn't make that up. That is practical, relevant Jewish teaching. Okay, but what about the DJs who don't have that learning, like Jim? So I'm not really part of this next story. I was just eavesdropping. And I was sitting in Rabbi Amy's office, and she got a phone call from Jim. And Jim was not a member of any synagogue, and his mom had just died. And he needed to find a rabbi for the funeral, to do the funeral. And Rabbi Amy, while I was sitting there, she just checked her schedule, and she wasn't available. So she gave Jim a few other phone numbers to call, and then she hung up. And I said, "Well, does that kind of thing happen often?" And she said, "Yeah, it happens all the time." Okay, so it's likely that Jim found a rabbi to do his mom's service, but there's a good chance that he was on his own for Shiva. And that's where Jubilong could come in. We share the basic guidelines with warmth and heart. If Jim had known about Jubilong, he would have a good understanding of the Shiva basics. How about weddings? Okay, so many people are hiring. I know. Thanks. You guys are such a good audience. Oh, I love you. I'm going to stay here all the Okay. So many people are hiring officiants and justices of the peace now instead of rabbis. I don't like that either, but I don't know how to change that. And unfortunately, it's probably not going to change. But rather than bemoan the fact that there are fewer rabbi weddings, Jubilong has practical steps to make a meaningful Jewish or half-Jewish wedding. Remember, our baby naming. Remember how when some of you felt when you were new parents, like thrilled but scared and exhausted? Jubilong's baby naming booklet takes one thing off of a new parent's plate. Our ready-to-go ceremony, it's easily customizable and full of meaning. And this is what it looks like. See, it's pages, and they turn. And you could just, like, print that out. Like, that's how this works. Like, you just print it, and you can personalize and everything. Okay, this more is the catch-all. It's like Jubilong's catch-all. You need to really know the lowdown on kosher? Look no further. What's the difference between Reform, Conservative, Reconstructionist, Renewal, and all other things Jewish? We got it. And maybe you guys don't, but maybe your JCC people might. Like, that's the thing. Plus so much more, like blessings for someone who's going to go travel or someone who might be going through a heartbreak. Jelp. It's like Yelp, but for Jews. And Jubilong will be a conduit to other Jewish organizations like summer camp, synagogue, and most important, JCCs. One of our favorite holidays is Shabbat. The traditional Hebrew blessings, while meaningful for some, they just don't cut it for many DJs because they're Hebrew and they don't know it. But Jubilong's children's blessing just might. I would really love if you would read it all out loud with me now. Here with you beside me, I feel so greatly blessed. This moment means much more than I can say. A time to be together, a time for us to rest. Shabbat is here, the time has come to celebrate the day. So I hold you close, my hands upon your head. As I watch you growing, I smile through my tears. Sometimes I wish you'd stay forever small, but then I see you blossom and I befriend the passing years. I love you now, I love you then, I'd love to see it all, so I lift my voice to offer you this prayer. For every step along the road, I will be there. I know, it's so sweet. So you guys, you brilliant folks, have been doing the old challah in a plastic bag on Friday for years. I have a 23-year-old daughter who got that challah. But we all know that a lot of it is eaten in the car on the way home. Okay, but all you need to do, let's just say you love that, like if you like that blessing that we just read, is we made these bag tags that you can affix to the challah bags that you're giving out. And someone looked at it and they're like, okay, these are cute, but if it was a sticker, it would be even faster because that way I don't have to use the twisty on every challah bag tag. And I'm like, fine. Like, I have bag tags. I will make stickers. If you want a bunch of them, email me. It will be my pleasure to send them to you for free. Like, this is what I want to do. I want to help you to be able to share Jubilong if you're so inspired to do so. And please, don't be scared to use them. If you offer the blessing as a gift, like with no expectations, the recipient will receive it that way too. I've spoken to DJ parents, and they've said like their only consistent Shabbat ritual is that blessing. And they just like it. It touches them. My friend Samantha, she's like, oh yeah, we like it. We do it every day. I'm like, you mean every Shabbat? She's like, no. It's like part of our every night ritual with her daughter. So like, I don't know. They use it however they want. I don't care. But just give it. Like, put it out there and the universe will do what it wants to do with it. So I have spent, I'm really a little bit obsessed with Jubarism. I have spent a lot of my life Jubarist. I was in 3rd grade when my mom and dad decided to send my sisters to modern Orthodox Jewish day school, okay? They learned things like Hebrew, Chumash, Talmud, and I don't know, whatever else it is that you learn in day school. And I went to regular Hebrew school, and I learned, well, not as much. So that is how, at least in my eyes, at the ripe old age of 8, I became the least Jewish member of my family. So here are some random examples. This is like therapy. This is like my therapy. I'm going to get this out. It's going to be done after today. Here are some random examples of Judaism that were running through my brain when I was at Alan and Diane's for Shabbat just a few weeks ago. Okay, so I was like, did I bring the wrong cookies? Just how kosher are Alan and Diane? Oh my God, I just turned the bathroom light off. Is it worse to turn it on fast and hope no one notices? Shoot, is that my phone ringing from the coat closet? Oh no, Diane just invited us to services with them tomorrow morning and I was planning to go to the mall. Okay, so that is how my mind works all the time. And this is what I do. I mean, but Judaism, it's a great word. And the stories can make us laugh. And it's funny to talk about, especially when we're surrounded by people we feel safe with. But the fact is that Judaism can be dangerous. It becomes, I'm not good enough and I don't belong here quickly. Another thing that sometimes holds people back is they are afraid that their not Jewish partner will feel left out. So at Jubelong, we always keep that in mind. So we have a couple of ads that are an example. Even if his mother still calls you her. And because we didn't all build pyramids, that's special for Passover. If Jubelong can add a little humor and make someone's Jewish experience fantastic, then we are more likely to gain a new team member, okay? Here is a blessing we adapted. We call it the blessing for anyone who wasn't born Jewish because we know this is a lot. I'd also would really appreciate if you could just do it again, read this along with me. May everyone who shares in a Jewish life feel welcome and integrated. We are deeply grateful to those who provide love and support to their Jewish partners and families by creating a home that includes Judaism. We offer special thanks to those who are raising their sons and daughters with Jewish identity. We are a very small people, and history has made us smaller. Our children mean hope, life, and future. We pray with all of our hearts that the gifts and blessings you have given to your family, to the community, and to the Jewish people will come back to you and fill your life with joy. Now, because I am asking you to share Jubelong, if you are so inspired to do so, I want to show you some feedback that we have received. So this is from Shira in Seattle. She said, tonight we read your, we know this is a lot, blessing, and it made my super Jewish mom and my non-Jewish husband tear up, and me too, of course. And he says, it feels nice to be appreciated. I know, you guys, this is so good. Lisa in Atlanta said, Jubelong is wonderful. I hope you touch many, many people with your message. You touched me. And Jesse from New York, I love this one. We used your Haggadah at a previously warm but dysfunctional family Seder. The increase in participation and happiness was immense. And Becca from Newton, Mass. said, I love your website. I'm a student at Hebrew College. Your resources are useful in my professional setting as well as the Jewish preschool where I teach children from interfaith families. I want to share a few more things with you because I just love this chart. I think it's really cool because we're like a little like Jewish Pinterest, but with attitude. So in small print, this is because you can save everything. It says, why make an account and save your favorite Jewish stuff? Because someday Jack is going to get off his ass and pop the question, and you are going to get to plan that wedding that you've been thinking about since 3rd grade. Okay, if you only do one thing when you leave here today, please sign up for our emails. We don't send them very often. Mostly we send them right before the holidays, like a lead up and then the big holidays. But they are funny, and we keep them warm and funny, just what you've seen. And plus, every time someone signs up for an email, a Jewish angel gets its wings. Here's some of our ads. when you get back in touch with Judaism just to piss off your Gentile mother-in-law? So you eat bacon. God has other things to worry about. Even if you're still scarred by your own bar mitzvah. Are you Jewish is not a trick question. You guys get that, right? Because sometimes I'm not judging. I'm just like, well, are you Jewish? Because I want to explain what I do. And they're like, well, my mother, my cousin, my brother, my UPS driver. I'm like, oh, my God, I just wanted to, like, it's confusing. By the way, we can make any one of the posters that you just saw for your JCC. Like, I can send them to you, and we can also co-brand by adding your JCC logo. So I'm from Metro West New Jersey, and so we put their logo on and our logo on. Like Judaism tried on, like Nordstrom's, you have a liberal return policy. And, oh, we did Friday Night Lights without the concussion. Okay, really, I say this so from the bottom of my heart. If you have other ideas to get Juba, if you think that there are people in your JCCs, in your community who would like this, and you have other ideas, email me at Jubalong. I am the one who sees the emails. And I joined the board of the JCCA because I know that if we work together to reach out to those DJs, then we will have made a difference in the future of the Jewish people. I firmly believe that. That's a huge thing to say, but it's the truth. Like, we can make a difference. Okay, I really love finding wonderful Jewish content, and because I do Jubalong all the time, I've gotten pretty good at it. But every once in a while, I can't find what I need. For example, a blessing for the communities of the JCC Association and JCCs of North America, and all of you people who came to ProCon 2019, and it's a Sunday afternoon, and here you are because you care about this. So, and you're gonna save the future of the Jewish people. So I wrote a blessing for you myself. I hope you like it. God, or universal spirit, or whatever you believe, please bless these men and women who care about the JCCs and help them thrive. They know that their JCC might be the only place that disengaged Jews will find a community that can literally change their lives. These people really believe and live the fact that the middle C in JCC stands for community, and that community has the power to bring joy, love, and future to the Jewish people. God, while we're at it, it would be great if all the JCC members paid their dues on time. The plumbing of every JCC pool works perfectly, as do all of the exercise machines. And during pickup time, the parking lot looks like a well-oiled machine. May these folks, who are the hearts of the JCCs everywhere, be blessed with the true knowledge and deep understanding of how many lives they touch every single day. And may they be blessed with the love of our community for which they are a backbone. Amen, and thank you, guys.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to ProCon 2019. So I have to start with a couple of quick disclaimers today. First of all, I fell in love with Jubalong from the first time I was introduced to the work that Archie Gottesman is doing. I cannot say specifically which of those colored circles that I'm in on the Jubarishment continuum, but I can tell you that we do a lot of the rituals at home. We've been doing Seders my entire life, and we grabbed the Jubalong Haggadah this past Passover, and it substantially strengthened the quality of the interaction we had with our people. It's an amazing resource, and I encourage you all to take advantage of the offer that Archie has made to us today. Her game, her goal, Her mission is to do what we're in business to do, which is to make people feel part of a wider, stronger, and richer Jewish community. So on behalf of all of us, Archie, thank you very, very much. Now, I also have to say that I had planned to do that mice thing at the beginning of my, and I got nothing now to soften things up here. So, you know, in a pinch, I can tell you that I came back from Israel on Friday. I was with my board chair, Gary Jacobs, at the Conference of Presidents Mission in Jerusalem. I got home in time for Shabbat dinner. It's a especially nice time for us in the family now that my kids are largely grown. My oldest son, who's a Ernst & Young consultant, spending a lot of his time in St. Louis these days, was home for Shabbat dinner. He asked me what was going on. I said, well, I just got home, but I'm leaving already tomorrow to head to Orlando for ProCon. And I'm a little nervous. I've been, you know, running around all week in Israel. I'm off on the time zone. I have to give this big address to the opening plenary to a very important crowd. And he said, well, you know, I've got, you know, one bit of advice that should give you some comfort. You're going to be fine. And I said, that'd be great, because I could really use a shot in the arm here. And he said, it's no problem. He said, Dad, just don't suck. We take such inspiration from our children. So I want to talk about what it is that we're doing here, and watching and admiring the legions of people who've been coming to ProCons for many years over the course of one or more decades that you've worked in the JCC field. I think you know why you're here. I think you come here to be part of a larger community. I think you come here to take strength and insight and inspiration from the people who are doing the work that you're doing in your communities, in their communities all across the continent. I think you know that this is about leaving Orlando with a charge, energized about the work that lies ahead. I think those people who have labored for years in the JCC field know exactly why it's important for us to be here together. I want to say a couple of words about why I'm here, because I definitely would not have identified as one of those people until not very long ago. The short story about how I came to be in this job is I was working for an Israeli university doing work that I loved about developing Israel's Negev desert region, and academic research and science and so forth, and felt that I could very contentedly do that for the rest of my professional life. But I have also been in the Jewish world now for about 25 years, since concluding my brief career with IBM in corporate finance, and I'm an observer of the dynamics of Jewish life. And I was uneasy about the things that I've observed. And again, those of you who've been in the field for a while will know the things that I'm about to tell you better than I do. We are not, as a Jewish community, as cohesive as we used to be. We are not, as a Jewish community, as committed as we used to be. We are not, as a Jewish community, as accountable to one another as we used to be. We are not, as a Jewish community, as tightly bound with the state of Israel as we used to be. And it's uneasy if you're concerned about the trajectory, how we're going to change course and alter the path that we're on. And so I had let it be known to a couple of friends of mine that if there was an opportunity at some point to be part of something that might have a hand in doing better on these things, I would be open to giving up the very contented situation that I was in. And I got a call from a headhunter, now it's a little bit more than 2 years ago, asking me whether I would be interested in the search for JCC Association, and I immediately answered exactly as you expected I would. Absolutely not. I'm not a JCC guy. There are JCC people. They're the people in this room, the people who've been doing this for years or decades on behalf of Jewish community centers. They're people who were steeped in it, who were raised in it, who grew up at the JCC. And I'm not that. I am the kind of JCC member that might have been mentioned in Archie's prayer. I'm the guy that pays his dues every year, but my JCC never sees me. Sorry, Jordan Schenker and the Kaplan JCC on the Palisades crew. I'll make my dues payment on time every year, but I'm not a big user of the JCC, and you don't have to worry about my complaints, observations, or criticisms. But not being a JCC person, I thought this is not the right search for me and not the place where I could do any good at all. But this friend of mine said to me, don't dismiss it out of hand. Do some homework, call me back, and let me know whether this is something that you might consider. And let me tell you a little bit about what I learned. In the field of early childhood education, JCCs across our system see more than 20,000 children in their classrooms each and every day, and more than 4,000 teachers bear responsibility for delivering the educational mission upon which those programs are based. We provide summer camp programs to more than 100,000 kids, teenagers, staff, specialists, and experts of all kinds who lighten the lives of Jewish children every summer. More than 3,000 dedicated board members and lay leaders populate the boardrooms of JCCs throughout our system, bringing life, commitment, and generosity to the work that we do. We're a field that's filled with people like you, 6,000 strong, 6,000 full-time, skilled Jewish professionals who bear responsibility for delivering the work of JCCs. And because that number sounds large, but taken out of context might not mean anything, two of the other largest continental professional operations are the Federation Movement and Hillel, and we are multiples the size of both of them put together relative to the manpower that we bring to bear in the work that we do. And the number that was most powerful to me of all was also alluded to, though not specifically, by Archie. 1.5 million people walk through the doors of our JCCs every single week. 1 million of them are Jews. And for those who are seeing it every single day, you know that this is the widest and broadest cross-section of the Jewish community that there is. We see everybody from infancy to old age, from ultra-Orthodox to completely secular, left, right, and center of the political spectrum, and in an era where many of the people in our communities define themselves by one or another letter, the entire alphabet comes walking through our doors each and every week in every JCC across the country. That makes us the most significant platform for Jewish engagement on the continent. And if that weren't enough, 500,000 friends and neighbors from beyond the Jewish community purposefully choose to come through our doors each and every week as well for whatever program, activity, event, or initiative that we have to offer, for which they have decided that it is the Jewish community center that's the best place to find it, or to do it, or to get it. And as a result, we are the largest platform for grassroots Jewish engagement on the continent as well. And after seeing these numbers and thinking about what they meant, I called back my friend who'd made the connection with the search firm that was undertaking the search for JCC Association. And I said to them that if they were willing to see somebody who didn't consider himself a JCC person, I'd be honored to have a chance to participate in that kind of a search, because this is the place in which the future of Jewish life is going to be determined. This is the place in which the Jewish community can be found, and therefore this is the place in which we're going to have to take on the responsibility for engaging them in a manner that will make them into a greater version of themselves. And why do they come to our JCCs, 1.5 million strong each and every week? They come because the barriers to entry are low. They come because there are a myriad of choices and options for them when they walk through our doors. They come because it makes them feel like they are part of a larger community. They come because the JCC is for them a town square. And those of us who do a little traveling on vacation, either here at home in the US, in Canada, or elsewhere around the world, know that when we visit a place we haven't been to before, we find ourselves inevitably in the town square of that place. And there is something about the town squares that are memorable, that leave their mark on us. It's something about the smells. It's something about the cafes. It's something about the architecture. It's something about the people that we meet. It's something that tells us something more about the wider community in which we are visiting, that leaves its mark on us in the town square. Those are the things that make it worthwhile for 1.5 million people to walk through our doors each and every week, because we have imprinted on them the fact that there is something in our square that makes it worthwhile to come. And it's much more than buildings. It's much more than a campus. It's much more than a pool or the facility. It's the people. They come because of us. They come because of you. And who are we who bear so much responsibility for getting them in the door? We are people who work with families each and every day. Where are our early childhood professionals in the room today? We're the people who give a face and a voice to the work of the JCC and the JCC movement. Where are our marketing and communications professionals today? We're the people who make every single person feel worthy for the activities and programs they come to us. Where are our health and fitness and exercise people today? We are people who are devoted to community. We are people who are devoted to working with people. We are people who are devoted to one another. And that devotion transcends the work that we do in our specific task, function, or professional responsibility each and every day. It goes to the larger part that says that when we show up for work, we're there for whatever the community needs. And when called upon, we're going to be there for what other communities may need. Now, I began my tenure in the spring of 2017, and in the summer of 2017, the North American continent suffered one of the worst spates of natural disasters that we've seen in the modern history of this continent. It was floods and wildfires and hurricanes and mudslides, one of the worst of which, Hurricane Harvey, struck the Jewish community of Houston and struck the Houston JCC with great force and leaving tremendous damage in its wake. And I had the good fortune as a new CEO at JCC Association to be in regular contact with my counterpart, Joel Dinkin, the CEO of the Evelyn Rubinstein JCC in Houston. And they were devastated because the JCC was flooded out, because the homes of the people that worked at the Houston JCC were flooded out. But the community required them to pull themselves up by their bootstraps and be a platform from which they could provide relief to those who were suffering the most, and to provide an opportunity to allow families that were in the midst of dealing with these floods in their personal lives a place to send their children, a safe and responsible setting in which life as reasonably normal could go on while they pulled themselves together. And I asked Joel on the day after the hurricane what it was that he thought we could do to be helpful, because we wanted to extend a helping hand. And Joel reacted in the reflexive way that we seem always to react in the Jewish world, and he said, "Please, send money." Because the people in our community need help. And if the JCC system was interested in being helpful, raise some money to buy gift cards to the big box stores so that we can give them out to the people in the greatest need. And it didn't sit right with me at the time, but we pulled ourselves together and did exactly that. In a period of the next week and a half or so, we raised a couple of $100,000 in gift cards. We sent them down to Houston. They were given out at the big tennis court facility in Houston, which had become a staging area for providing relief. And Joel and I continued to talk every day, and thankfully, the crisis passed. Thankfully, those that do fundraising brilliantly, the Jewish Federations of North America, delivered more than $17 million in relief, and others who are generously inclined provided an enormous amount of relief and support as well. And as the weeks went by, I revisited with Joel from time to time the question of what it is that we do in an hour of need. And sometime in the fall of 2017, I had occasion to be on the phone with Joel again, and I said, "Joel, if you could go back to August 26th, and I asked you the question again, what do you need? Would you have given me the same answer? What would you have said?" And there was a pregnant pause in our conversation over the phone, and he said, "Doron, I would have asked you for 6 early childhood educators, 2 facilities directors, and an additional JCC executive or 2 who could have helped me by allowing me to delegate some responsibility to people who knew the work that needed to be done." And at that moment, in both time zones, in Houston and New York, a light bulb went on over both of our heads. And we realized that what makes us special as a movement of JCCs is not our ability to dig deep into our pockets and raise money, though we do plenty of that. And I know there's a professional track here of people whose job it is to deal with our fundraising needs in their communities. But what makes us special and unique are the 6,000 full-time skilled professionals who are so passionately dedicated to being there for one another and creating stronger communities. We needed to find a way to create a mechanism that would allow us to do that in an hour of need. And in that moment, J-Response was born. And J-Response was envisioned as a mechanism that would enable us to deploy ourselves as needed in an hour of need when a JCC is in crisis, or when a community in which a JCC serves a critical role as a staging area for bringing relief to others is needed. And so we began to develop a game plan. We organized an advisory committee made up of leaders of JCCs across Canada and the United States to take counsel with about how we would deal with it. How do we deal with the transportation, and how do we deal with lodging, and how do we deal with the cost, and how do we deal with insurance, and what about the liability issues? We identified a partner in an organization called IsraAid, which is Israel's leading non-governmental organization for bringing disaster relief to communities in need anywhere they may be found around the world. They were in Southeast Asia after tsunami. They were in Japan after the floods. They were in Haiti after the disastrous storms. They were in California after the mudslide. And IsraAid, it turns out, was in Houston after Hurricane Harvey. These are experts in bringing relief, and we identified them as a perfect partner for us. And we got together with IsraAid to decide that we were going to do a pilot training program for J-Response in Memphis at the biennial conference of JCC Association that took place last spring. And I want to quickly give a shout out to the handful of people who were in Memphis who participated in our inaugural training. Now, the training was successful, but among the most popular things that came out of the Memphis training was that people really liked the shirts. And now everybody at ProCon has one, the most popular part. We were certain that J-Response was going to be about natural disasters, and we were certain as a result of what happened in 2017 that natural disasters were going to be coming with greater frequency. And the months went by as we prepared for our initial deployment, and thank God, we were not confronted with the kind of natural disasters that we had seen the previous year, so we waited. We waited for the right reason to trigger our first deployment. And then came October 27th of 2018, and the massacre at the Tree of Life congregation in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania on Squirrel Hill, and our world was turned on its ear. My son, Aaron and I, my son made Aliyah in June. My son Aaron and I were on our bikes riding around the kibbutz that he's living in the north of Israel, a place called Afikim, when I got a phone call from another important colleague and mentor of mine, Brian Schreiber, the CEO of the Pittsburgh JCC, to tell me that he was rushing back from a weekend out of town to the JCC because there was an active shooter situation going on at Tree of Life. And I don't think I need to tell anybody in this room the significance or the scope of the horrific slaughter that was perpetrated against Jews at prayer in one of the most beautiful and intimate Jewish communities on the entire continent. But I may need to tell you, because if you're not aware, you should be, that the JCC of Greater Pittsburgh in Squirrel Hill is situated only a few blocks from the Tree of Life congregation. And when the disaster struck, from the moment the active shooter scenario began to unfold, it was to the JCC that the community came, that became the center for the community to be together in dealing with what happened. It's where the families of the members of that congregation came to find out what had become of their loved ones. It's where the mayor of Pittsburgh came, and the governor of Pennsylvania, and the minister for diaspora affairs of the state of Israel. They came to the JCC where the media was waiting for them, where community leaders were waiting for them, and where the Jewish community waited. Because in Pittsburgh and on Squirrel Hill, the JCC is the town square, and it was the natural place to which people came. And beginning on the 27th of October, as the facts became clear and the scope of the disaster became known, it was the JCC that was operating 16 to 20 hours a day, 6.5 days a week, on the backs of the members of that staff who knew people who had been killed or affected by the slaughter, on the backs of a staff that included members of the staff who lost relatives in the slaughter themselves. In the intimacy of the entire thing, the work that you do with such great passion and dedication every day was required of those people who were dealing with the tragedy of the loss on their own. And on November 12th, a leadership fly-in took place. Federation and JCC leaders from across the continent came to Pittsburgh to learn and to be there in solidarity and to talk to our colleagues. And when we asked Brian and his team what it was that we could do to be helpful, he didn't ask for money. And he didn't ask for some grand relief effort, but he said, if you can come and lend a hand and provide a few hours of daylight and time off for the members of a beleaguered team, that would matter a great deal. And so the inaugural deployment of J-Response unfolded. And in the 8 ensuing weeks, every Friday and Monday, professionals from JCCs across Canada and the United States came to Pittsburgh to lend a hand. They came to be lifeguards at the pool. They came to lead aerobics. They came to sit at the reception desk. They came to serve meals to seniors. They came to decorate and collate and organize the myriad of letters and signs and posters that had been sent in. They came to let the people at the Pittsburgh JCC know that they weren't alone. And because we wanted to start this relief right away, and for people that were coming from outside of town, the arrangements that had to be made for flights and transportation, et cetera, were going to take certain days. One JCC in particular raised its hand and said, until you can get organized with the rest of the J responders, we will be there. That was the JCC of Youngstown, Ohio, and its CEO, Michael Rawl. And over the course of those weeks, 67 JCC professionals from 46 JCCs and the JCC Association made it their business to be there. And having been one of those professionals, I can tell you that whatever contribution we made to our colleagues in Pittsburgh and to the Jewish community in Pittsburgh by showing up, it paled in comparison to the impact and the imprint that it left on us. I don't think a single one of us will ever forget the day or days that we spent in Pittsburgh lending a hand to the Pittsburgh Jewish community. And again, I know that there are a number of J responders who came to Pittsburgh who are here. If you'll raise the lights, I'd like those people to stand and be recognized. And if you'll leave those lights up for one more moment, I'd like also to invite to stand and be recognized the people who were the real heroes of the reaction to the massacre at the Tree of Life, the members of the staff of the JCC of Greater Pittsburgh. And so that you know that it wasn't just us in our field that acknowledged and recognized the leadership that was provided. A few short months after this terrible nightmare took place, the Jewish Forward, which is one of the leading Jewish newspapers here on the continent, produced its annual list of the Forward 50, the 50 most influential Jews in North America. And this year, that list proudly included the president and CEO of the Pittsburgh JCC, Brian Schreiber. The Tree of Life story is a terrible story. The response to the Tree of Life massacre by this community, by this professional family, is an inspiring outcome to a terrible nightmare, but a demonstration that we have responsibilities and obligations that we are not only prepared to stand up to, but that we are proud and determined to be called upon to provide. And I want to talk a little bit about who we are as a field and as an institution in the wider Jewish world. A generation ago, when I was growing up in the New York metropolitan area, an engaged Jewish family typically included the following components. We were members of a synagogue. We contributed to Federation. My father was a civil servant working for the city of New York, but it was important to him to be part of the civil servants campaign every year. Mom went to Hadassah meetings, and Dad was a member of the B'nai B'rith Lodge. And the kids in the family went to Young Judea. That was our youth movement. And yes, we were also members of the YMYWHA of Hackensack, New Jersey, whose function it was to play a complementary part in the work that we did as an engaged Jewish family. We were covering the landscape with all these different components, and the JCC's job was to be there also to do the special things that it did. But a generation, or a generation and a half later, what's happened to the level of engagement in all of those other things? Again, you know about it, what's happening in your community, but I can tell you what's happening in mine. Membership in synagogues, certainly outside of the Orthodox community, has cratered. Maybe 1 in 5 the number of people who were members at the time that I was growing up. Contributors to Federation campaigns have cratered. It's not that the federations don't raise in many cases as much or more than they used to. It's that they raise it from a fraction of the people that used to contribute. And Hadassah and B'nai B'rith, as venerable as they are, do what they do with a tiny fraction of the people that they used to do it with and for. And it's true of Young Judea and Habonim Dror and Hashomer Hatzair and Beitar and B'nai Akiva. The Zionist youth movements that used to have a significant audience don't have that audience anymore. Of all of those points of engagement of 30 years ago, the only one that sees as many people, if not more, than it did then are the JCCs. And these days it is insufficient, therefore, for the JCCs to see themselves as playing a complementary part. Because as a learned colleague of mine said to me, for many people, and this comes back to Archie's message, the act of walking through the door of the JCC may be the single most Jewish thing that they do. And therefore, our responsibilities for what happens once they come through our doors are unlike anything that JCCs have ever borne responsibility for before. So who are we? We are 6,000 full-time skilled Jewish professionals and 32,000 part-time and seasonal staff. We are the largest community of professionals on the North American landscape. We are a family of professionals who come together every day to provide a town square in cities, towns, and neighborhoods across the continent, and in an hour of need, wherever we need to be, and whenever we are called upon to be there. Within those town squares, we provide the reason for the people to come. We provide 1.5 million reasons each and every week. Who are we? We're the backbone of the North American Jewish community and the builders of the future of North American Jewish life. Who are we? We're the largest gathering of JCC movement professionals in the history of ProCon, more than 540 strong. A month ago, in Miami Beach, and Ruben alluded to this, a similar gathering took place of JCC and independent agency CEOs called Mifgash. One of the new components we introduced into our executive leadership forum was something called the Innovation Incubator, because people in all of our communities are hot to trot to find the next great magic bullet that's going to answer the challenge of the future of Jewish life. And we know something that they don't know. That magic bullet is not going to be invented on high in some ivory tower someplace, but it's going to come from the work that's happening in innovation and development each and every day in the communities in which we work. And so we turned to some of the biggest names in Jewish philanthropy, and we put out an RFP to every JCC that was going to be represented by its executive, and we invited them to bring forward the most innovative programs and projects that are being done in your communities so that we could showcase them to mega philanthropy. Because the association's responsibility is not to be the most innovative engine in the community, but to identify the most innovative opportunities and marry them with major philanthropic investment. And I am very proud to tell you that those three major philanthropists, Harleen Appelman from the Covenant Foundation, which is part of the Crown Family Philanthropies, and Mark Charandoff, who heads the Maimonides Fund, and Gary Jacobs, whose family is one of the largest contributors to Jewish philanthropic causes from the west coast of the United States, came to Miami Beach, judged our 6 presenters, and announced cash grants to 3 significant projects. One, storefront JCC programs bringing early childhood education to communities that are newly Jewish in Brooklyn from the Kings Bay Y. The Ashman Family JCC Zionism 3.0 Conference, which this past year gathered more than 1,000 people at the Palo Alto JCC to confer and deliberate over the nature of Zionism in the 21st century, and the Aaron Family JCC in Dallas's J on Wheels, which is a mobile JCC classroom that is traveling to outlying Jewish communities across the wider Dallas area. Our most innovative projects were judged by some of the greatest philanthropic leaders in the land. And when they were asked by our extraordinary master of ceremonies, Mark Sokol, the longtime CEO of the JCC of Greater Boston, about what is something that excites them about the North American Jewish landscape, Harleen Appelman responded by saying that that gathering and that program excited her, because the JCCs who were presenting were not looking to generate investment in themselves. They were looking to see the things that they had innovated, invested in, and taken to other JCCs, because there were no places where institutions like ours were gathering together in order, by definition, to do something that would be better for everybody else as a result of their success. And Sandy Cardin, the longtime CEO of the Charles and Lynn Schusterman Foundation, who I'm sure everybody has heard of, the foundation, you should know it's a $5+ billion foundation that has become one of the backbones of Jewish philanthropy on this continent, said that, and I quote, "I don't think there are any institutions that are more important than JCCs." And he looked at the gathered CEOs in the room and he said to them, "You are the Kohanim of the 21st century." And for those who are feeling embarrassed, because you don't know the reference, take heart. The Kohanim were the tribe of priests in the days of the Jewish temple, whose job it was to lead the people. After the destruction of the Second Temple, the job of Jewish communal leadership fell to the rabbis, who have borne primary responsibility for Jewish life over the last 2,000 years. But not in the 21st century, where Sandy Cardin, as learned and as steeped and as significant a colleague as we have in the Jewish philanthropic world, said that we are in a paradigmatic shift of Jewish life, of Jewish community, and each of you plays a role similar to what the Kohanim played. As we created Rabbinic Judaism in Yavne and after, you are the 21st century Kohanim. And if our executives are the Kohanim, then we are the ones who inspire their leadership and who are charged with bringing their vision to life. Today, we are the largest platform for Jewish engagement on this continent. Tomorrow, we will be a true town square, a gateway to everything the Jewish community has to offer, and always an embassy of the Jewish community to the wider communities in which we live and serve. How will we get there? We'll get there together. May we go from strength to strength. Thank you very much.